Welcome again to the Purposes of God. This is Doug Krieger, your host for this final video number 30 in our presentation of the Purposes of God. This is an addendum to the original 29 videos. This is video number 30, the addendum to the Purposes of God, part 1 of a 4-part addendum. Again, this is video number 30, addendum part 1 of the Purposes of God. And again, I am your host, Doug Krieger of the Tribulation Network. This will be on the tabernacle in the wilderness, or the tent of meeting, or the tent of the testimony. The tabernacle in the wilderness. Let them make me a sanctuary, literally a sacred place, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show you, that is, the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all its furnishings. Just so you shall make it, and see to it that you make them according to the pattern which was shown you on the mountain. Exodus chapter 25, verses 8 and 9, and also chapter 25 and verse 40. Who serve the copy and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was divinely instructed when he was about to make the tabernacle. For he said, See that you make all things according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. Hebrews chapter 8, verse 5. The 25.20-inch sacred cubit reveals the purposes of God in the tabernacle. The measurements of the tabernacle in the wilderness integrate the major purposes of God reflected in the Great Pyramid of Giza, Solomon's Temple, Ezekiel's Temple, and especially those of the New Jerusalem. Only by the divine measurement of the 25.20-inch sacred cubit can the measurements of the tent of meeting be understood. They wholly unveil the 144 of the New Jerusalem, bringing Israel and the church in eternal relationship with the Almighty as the bride of Messiah. The tabernacle in the wilderness was 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide, or 100 times 50 would equal 5,000 square cubits. The square root of 5,000 is equal to 70.71, or rounding down, we would have two sets of 70 by 70, or 77, which is the angle, that is 77 degrees, or the base angles are 51 degrees, 51 minutes each, and approximate 103 degrees, or 180 degrees minus 103 degrees would equal 77-degree angle at the peak of the Great Pyramid of Giza. 77 is the expression of the absolute completion of God's masterpiece. 70 is also connected to the 70 elders of Israel, and the 70 Jesus sent out 2 by 2. And of course, the 70 weeks of Daniel's prophecy and the 70 years of captivity connects both Israel and the church within its crucible. This is all found in Exodus chapter 24, verse 1, Numbers chapter 11, verse 16, and verses 24 through 25, Daniel chapter 9 in verse 2 and 24, and Luke chapter 10, verses 1 and 17. The wall of the tabernacle and the wall of the New Jerusalem equate to one another. The outer court, the curtain walls, were 100 cubits in length by 50 cubits in width, or a perimeter of 300 cubits, that is, 100 plus 50 plus 100 plus 50 on all four sides, equal to 300 cubits, found in Exodus chapter 27, verses 9 through 19. The 25.20-inch sacred cubit measurement times these 300 cubit perimeter of the tabernacle in the wilderness is equal to 7,560 linear inches. 7,560 linear inches is a fractal of the 756 linear feet of one side of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Times 4 is equal to 3,024 linear feet, times 12 inches is equal to 36,288 linear inches, divided by the measurement of the sacred cubit, 25.20 inches, is equal to 1,440 cubits, or the 144 of the New Jerusalem, or 1/10 the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza in its foundation. Therefore, the curtains of the tabernacle in the wilderness actually express the New Jerusalem's 144. The distance from the gatepost to the gatepost of the tabernacle, omitting the 20 cubit entry area that you see here in the graphic, is equal to 280 cubits times 25.20 inch, the sacred cubit, is equal to 7056 linear inches, or its fractal of 756, once again, linear feet. Again, the side of the Great Pyramid of Giza times 4 equal to 3,024 linear feet times 12 inches is equal to 36,288 inches, divided by the sacred cubit measurement itself of 25.20 inches is equal to 1,440 linear cubits, or the 144 of the New Jerusalem. Exodus chapter 26 and verse 2 of the 300 cubits and the 280 cubits and the 20 cubits for the east gate. Indeed, the curtains, the outer wall of the tabernacle in the wilderness, reflects the wall of the New Jerusalem's 144 cubits. The height of the outer curtain wall. The height of the outer court curtain wall was 5 cubits, by its length 280 cubits, excluding the east entryway of length of 20 cubits, would be equal to 1,400 square cubits, that is, multiplying 280 by 5. And if we were to divide that by 2, that is 1/2 on either outer side, it would equal 700 square cubits of curtain, or 2 sets of 700, or 2 sets of its fractal of 70, validating the square root of 5,000 square cubits, which we arrived at by multiplying the length times the width of the entire outer court area, that is 50 times 100 was equal to 5,000 square cubits, and then we took the square root of that, a number multiplied by itself, and arrived at 70.71. Rounding down, we had 2 sets of 70. Now, this is all found in Exodus chapter 27, verses 9 through 18. The east entry of the outer curtain wall of the tabernacle was 20 cubits in length, or 20 cubits times 25.20 inches of the sacred cubit, was equal to 504 linear inches, or a fractal of Plato's critical number of 5040. Divided by 2 would equal 2520, which would be a fractal of the sacred cubit inch of 25.20 inches. And the 5,040 linear feet is the perimeter of the Temple Mount of King Solomon. The 4 pillars at the outer court entry that are 5 cubits in height are equal to 20 cubits, that is 4 times 5, times 25.20 inches of the sacred cubit are equal to 504 linear inches, or the fractal of the 5040 of Plato and so forth of the above calculations. The 20 inch by 5 the 20 cubit by 5 cubit entry in linear cubits, that is the perimeter of that area, is equal to 20 plus 5 plus 20 plus 5 is equal to 50 linear cubits times 25.20 inches of the sacred cubit is equal to 1260 linear inches, which is 1/2 of the sacred cubit, a fractal, and the prophetic 1260 days of Daniel's 70th week, or time times and half a time, or 42 months, or 3.5 days, or 3.5 years. If you would, it would have a very extended view into the very conclusion of all of the prophetic happenings of Israel and the church in the latter days. The pillars of the outer curtain wall echo the measurements of the New Jerusalem's 144. The outer court curtain wall of the tabernacle was 5 cubits in height all around. This is found in Exodus chapter 27, verses 9 through 18. And its length was 300 cubits. Now, taking the 5 cubits and multiplying it by its length of 300 cubits of the tabernacle wall will give us the area, which would give us 1,500 square cubits, which is a fractal, that is 1,500, of each of the edges of the New Jerusalem's 1,500 miles. That is, each edge of the New Jerusalem's 12 edges is 1,500 linear miles. Now, taking the linear measurements of the tabernacle's pillars upholding the tabernacle's outer curtain wall, we conclude that the 60 pillars upholding 300 linear cubits of white linen curtains, therefore 60 pillars times 5 cubits, is equal to 300 cubits in length of the 60 pillars. 60 generations separate Adam to Jesus, 20 from Adam to Abram, plus 40 from Isaac to Jesus. 60. This is in reference to R.T. Matthews at his website, which we have on this particular slide of names of the Bible and prophecy code. 300 cubits plus 300 cubits equals 600 cubits. This is part 1 in a 2-part explanation about both of these measurements combining together for 600 cubits. The 300 cubit length of the 60 pillars, that is 5 cubits each times 60 pillars, is equal to 300 cubits, times the 25.20 inch sacred cubit measurement, is equal to 7,560 linear inches. Therefore, adding both the length of the outer courtyard curtains and the length of the 60 pillars, that is 300 cubits plus 300 cubits, we get 600 cubits times 25.20 inches of the sacred cubit. We arrive at 15,120 linear inches, or its fractal of 1512, which is the gematria for the word apocalypsis in the Greek. Now, if we take that 15,120 inches and multiply it by 2, it will equal 30,240 inches. Divided by 12 inches will equal 2520 feet, the fractal of the very sacred cubit itself at 25.20 inches. Now, 25.20 inches, or 360 degrees times 7, or 360 degrees of a day's rotation of the Earth times 7 days of creation, or a full week, are equal to 2,520 degrees, or 2,520 days within the 70th week of Daniel's prophecy, with each year constituting 360 prophetic days times 7 days, equaling 2,520 prophetic days. This is part 2 of the 600 cubits. 300 cubits plus 300 cubits equals 600 cubits. The 300 cubit length of the outer court curtain wall times 25.20 inches of the sacred cubit is equal to 7,560 linear inches, a fractal of the side of the Great Pyramids, 756 feet. which we could multiply by all 4 of its sides, and it would equal 3,024 linear feet times 12 inches would give us 36,288 linear inches. Divided by 25.20 inches of the sacred cubit would give us 1,440 linear cubits, or the 144, which is a fractal of 1,440 linear cubits of the New Jerusalem. The 60 pillars on the outer court times 5 cubits, that is their height, will equal 300 linear cubits, and constitutes the second group of 144, if you would, or 2 groups of 144,000 of the New Jerusalem, found in Revelation 7 and 14. The righteousness of Christ, the 60 pillars, the 60 generations from Adam to Christ, upholds the white linen curtain, for he is the righteousness of the saints. 100 silver sockets. The silver sockets which affix or stabilize the boards of the tabernacle are, in number, 2 per board, times 48 boards. That will equal 96 silver sockets, or 40 on one side, plus 40 on the other side, plus 16 on the back side, are equal to 96. Exodus chapter 26, 18 through 25. Plus there are 4 silver sockets for the 4 pillars which stand before the holiest of all, holding up the cherubim veil. That will be 100 silver sockets in all. 10 or 100 or 1,000 connote the biblical number of fullness. Therefore, the entire tabernacle is rooted in the fullness of his redemption. Silver is the color of redemption. For example, Jesus was betrayed for 30 pieces of silver. The brazen altar in the outer court was 5.0 cubits in length, 5.0 cubits wide. It is emphasized that it is square, the burnt offering or brazen altar. 3 cubits was its height. All this is found in Exodus chapter 27, verses 1 through 8. 8 sides of this rectangular object would be 5 cubits each on 8 of its sides. That is, 8 times 5 would equal 40 cubits. Its other 4 sides of its 12 sides, if you would, is 3 cubits each, or 4 times 3 equals 12 cubits. Therefore, on its 12 edges, if you would, in its measurements, we would have 40 cubits plus 12 cubits is equal to 52 cubits times the 25.20 inch sacred cubit itself will give us 1,310.4 linear inches, or 1,310.4 linear inches divided by 33. 33 is the number for Christ, our perfect sacrifice. And when you do that division, you're going to get an answer of 40. 40 is the number of judgment. For example, Noah's flood, 40 days and 40 nights. He, our perfect sacrifice, was judged for us. He is our sin, burnt, peace, wave, and trespass offering. The bronze or copper laver or basin. You shall also make a laver of bronze, with its base also of bronze, for washing. You shall put it between the tabernacle of meeting and the altar, and you shall put water in it. They shall wash with water, lest they die, their hands and their feet, lest they die. All of this is found in Exodus chapter 30, 17 through 21. All ministry of the tabernacle by the priest demanded washing at the laver. No measurement of the laver is given. Why? Because the washing of water by the word and by the Spirit is immeasurable. it is limitless, and the laver's solid piece of brass or copper connotes his utter godliness. At the brazen altar he bore our judgment, but at the laver we are sanctified through the washing of water by the word. We take the initiative. There are three that bear witness on earth: the Spirit, the water, and the blood, and these three agree as one. 1 John chapter 5 and verse 8. The lampstand of pure gold, as described in Exodus chapter 25 verses 31 through 40. Solid gold in construction. 3 branches on one side of the stem and 3 branches on the other side of the lampstand stem. 7 lamps alight the lampstand, or the menorah. Exodus chapter 25 verse 37. 1 talent of pure gold for the lampstand and all its utensils. That was its weight. 1 talent is equal to approximately 90 to 94 pounds, the weight for one man to carry. This is given in 2 Kings chapter 5 verse 23, where we read that 2 talents of silver in 2 bags carried by 2 servants. The importance here is that the weight for one man was equal to 1 talent. 1 man to be the light of the world. The bowls are made like almond blossoms, 3 on either side of the stem, and on the stem there are 4 bowls. Therefore, insofar as the bowls are concerned, 3 plus 4 plus 3 is equal to 10 bowls on the menorah. The menorah, the New Jerusalem. Likewise, per almond blossom bowl there were 10 ornamental knobs and 10 flowers per bowl. Therefore, 10 almond blossom bowls plus 10 ornamental knobs plus 10 flowers are equal to 30. Total descriptions: 10 plus 10 plus 10 equals 30. And in addition to this, 7 lamps. 30 items and 3 to each bowl. Here we have a clear picture of 30 and 3, or 33, the number of Messiah as the light of the world. Priestly ministry commenced at 30 years of age for the Levitical priesthood, and 3 items per bowl, inclusive of the bowl, of course. Items per 6 lamps, 3 per bowl, equals 6 times 3 is equal to 18. That is, 3 items times 6 branches is equal to 18 items. But don't forget the lamps that those items are upon, 6 lamps. Therefore, we add together 18 items plus 6 lamps is equal to 24. 18 plus 6 again is equal to 24. And that would mean 12 on either side of the stem, or 12 plus 12 equals 24. And 12 items for the central lampstand itself, the stem, or 3 times 4 is equal to 12 upon one stem. The message of the menorah is glorious. The 24 is equal to 12 patriarchs and 12 apostles, the 24 elders, Israel and the church. From either side, the central stem equals 144. On one side of the 3, you have 12 times 12 in the middle is equal to 144, and 12 times 12 on the either side is equal to 144. Yet there is but one stem, one holy city, New Jerusalem. But I saw no temple in it, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. The city had no need of the sun or of the moon to shine, for the very glory of God illuminated it. The Lamb is its light. The nations shall walk in its light. Its gates shall not be shut at all by day. There shall be no night there. Revelation chapter 21, verses 22 through 25. The table of showbread, sometimes spelled S-H-E-W, B-R-E-A-D, which is the Old English, was also literally it's called the presence bread, ever in his presence. This is found in Exodus chapter 25, verses 23 through 30. The showbread table was 2 cubits in length, 1 cubit in width, and 1.5 cubits in height. It was therefore 2 by 1 by 1.5 cubits. When you multiply that to get the square, you wind up with 3 square cubits. And that is equal to partaking of the triune God 3, or participating in the triune God, always in his presence. Now, it was on the showbread table, there were 12 loaves of the showbread, placed in 2 separate rows of 6, for both, I believe, Israel and the church. 6 and 6. He is our blessed bread of life. The golden altar of incense before the Holy of Holies, before the veil. This also, as the showbread table, along with the menorah lampstand, is the third object in the holy place of the tabernacle in the wilderness. It was 1 cubit in length, 1 cubit in width, and 2 cubits height. Therefore, it had 12 sides. There were 8 sides, which were 1 cubit in. That would be 8 total cubits. It had 4 sides, which were 2 cubits, which would make it 8 cubits. And therefore, you would have 8 plus 8, which would be 16 linear cubits, times 25.20 inches of the sacred cubit, would equal 403.2 linear inches on its 12 sides. Divided by 12, that is the 12 patriarchs or the 12 apostles of the Lamb, or 3 times 4 equals 12, is equal to 33.6. That is again 403.2 linear inches divided by 12 is equal to 33.6. Or man, the number of 6, offering up prayers are only acceptable by Jesus Christ, 33. Or Jesus Christ, 33, offering up prayers on our behalf, 6, to the Father. This is what we see in Revelation chapter 8, verses 3 through 4, in Romans chapter 8, verse 26, and in Hebrews chapter 7, 24, where it says, He ever lives to make intercession for them. The 4 pillars and curtain colors. The 4 pillars upholding the veil to the holiest of all, found in Exodus chapter 26, verses 31 through 33, woven with an artistic design of cherubim, is hung upon 4 pillars of acacia. 4 pillars are 10 cubits in height, times 4 is equal to 40 linear cubits, times 25.20 inches of the sacred cubit will equal 1008 linear inches, times 2 is equal to 2016 linear inches on both sides. As a fractal of 2160 miles, the diameter of the moon, placed in sockets of silver, the woman enters in full redemption in reflection of his glory, the moon. The colors of the veils are of blue, purple, and scarlet, red, and fine woven linen, that is white. Thus, these repeated colors depict the blue, heavenly character of Christ, the purple, the ascension, royalty of Christ, scarlet, the redemption in Christ, white, the perfect righteousness of Christ. The cherubim will depict the glory of the Lord. This concludes part 1 of video 30 of the Addendum to the purposes of God. Again, I am your host, Doug Krieger of the Tribulation Network, and now on to part 2 of the addendum of video number 30 in the purposes of God.